Good afternoon. I'm Fiona Haworth, the Associate Priest at St Peter Mancroft, and this is one of our short series of reflections during the week at 1 o'clock every day. The reflections are entitled Looking for Meaning and Purpose. This week is the World Week for Peace in Israel and Palestine, and I am using the World Council of Churches' invitation to pray for peace in Palestine and Israel. Peace is always a fragile process. Far from being synonymous with pacts and strategic agreements, it is rather a profound attitude that must be rooted in hearts and in long-lasting institutions. The restoration of peace in the Holy Land, as various efforts over the decades have already shown, is a very fragile process. The impact of wars, the aftermath of violence, the hatred and the bitterness engraved on souls, social injustices, the compromised future of two peoples, and the broken message of three religions, in addition to the harmful consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, only accentuate day after day this fragility. The entire Middle East region seems to be at an impasse today, and peace seems an impossible outcome. What to do? What is the purpose of the annual week of prayer for peace in Palestine and Israel, promoted this year by the two ecumenical bodies, the World Council of Churches and the Middle East Council of Churches? Is there any hope carried by our prayers? In the extremely fragile situation in Palestine and Israel, we still believe in the power of prayer, because only the Spirit of God can soften hearts and change attitudes. Prayer does not mean, however, resignation on the part of the people. Rather, it implies a creative solidarity, combining a spiritual reference point and practical action. We need to restructure our response in a compassionate advocacy process undertaken in a spirit of goodwill and impartiality that transcends identity and religious affiliation. In this era of extreme fragility, creative solidarity is a sign of hope, that through the power of prayer and common action, we can make the restoration of peace and justice in the Holy Land both possible and a lived reality for all peoples in the region. A reading from Micah. In days to come, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be raised up above the hills. People shall stream to it, and many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth instruction, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between many peoples, and shall arbitrate between strong nations far away. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more, but they shall all sit under their own vines and under their own fig trees, and no one shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken. This passage from Micah is a call from God to his people to become involved in the difficult yet necessary work of peace building. If we are looking for meaning and purpose, we might find inspiration in these words. The vision of Micah is to pursue international disarmament, to take the weapons of war and transform them into useful tools that enable people to be fed and to live without fear. It is a future vision, yet it is one that we are called to work towards now, as we set our feet on the path that God invites us to walk by choosing creative solidarity in the midst of this common fragility. In the news this week, leaders from Israel, the UAE and Bahrain have met in Washington to sign agreements normalizing relations between the countries. Part of the agreements has rested on a commitment by the Israeli government to suspend its controversial plans to annex parts of the occupied West Bank. Yet the voices that have been absent from these conversations are those of the Palestinians. So today we are going to hear from Palestinian voices as they speak about their hopes and fears, their prayers and their dreams, the finding of meaning and purpose in creativity. Firstly, the Palestinian Liberation Organization on the role of culture, identity, and resilience. When nations are pushed into narrow corners, their identity is challenged, their past is disregarded, their food is appropriated, and their symbols are hijacked. When their land is confiscated, they will turn inwards to their inner soul, to their traditions, norms, and beliefs. In other words, they will hold on and develop their culture even further. Culture serves as a form of entertainment, perhaps a chance for people to engage artistically, or to exhibit an idea or a thought skillfully. In Palestine, culture has always been a vehicle for social and political change, and more so as a strong and steady assertion of identity. For Palestinians, culture has become synonymous with sumud, Arabic for resilience and steadfastness. Revd Dr Rehab, theologian and founder and president at Dar al-Khalima University College of Arts and Culture in Bethlehem, writes, "Culture is the means that empowers us to give face to our people, write melodies to our narrative, and to develop an identity that is deeply rooted in the Palestinian soil like an olive tree, yet whose branches reach out into the open skies." Prayer for the New Year by Fadwa Tukan. In our hands is a fresh yearning for you. In our eyes, songs of praise and unique melodies. Into your hand as choral offerings we will thrust them. O you who emerge as a sweet fountain of hope, O you who are rich with promise and desire, what is in store for us that you hold? What have you got? Give us love, for with love the treasures of bounty within us burst forth. With love, our songs will grow green and will flower and will spring with gifts, riches, fertility. Give us love, so we may build the collapsed universe within us anew and restore the joy of fertility to our barren world. Give us wings to open the horizons of ascent, to break free from our confined cavern, the solitude of iron walls. Give us light to pierce the deepest darkness, and with the strength of its brilliant flow, we will push our steps to a precipice from which to reap life's victories. And a poem by the revered Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish. Think of others. As you prepare your breakfast, think of others. Do not forget the pigeon's food. As you wage your wars, think of others. Do not forget those who seek peace. As you pay your water bill, think of others, those who are nursed by clouds. As you return home, to your home, think of others. Do not forget the people of the camps. As you sleep and count the stars, think of others, those who have nowhere to sleep. As you express yourself in metaphor, think of others, those who have lost the right to speak. As you think of others far away, think of yourself. Say, if only I were a candle in the dark. A prayer from the Wild Goose Resource Group. Eternal God, in your love for this world, you have made places of great beauty, and always where heaven is present, hell is never far off. This is our experience. It is the lot of your people. We recognize it in the world. Today we come to hold before you that land on which your Son put his feet and first walked the path to heaven across the terrain of the earth. Help us as we enter into solidarity with those who are our brothers and sisters in faith and in humanity, not to keep apart Palestinian and Israeli in our prayers, but rather to try with you and under your guidance to find a way of holding the broken pieces that in our lives and through our prayers, some greater health and some sign of wholesomeness might come, and a glimpse of your kingdom appear in our hearts and on this earth. Amen. We end with a recording of Ya Rabbah Salami, an original Palestinian melody, used by permission with the Wild Goose Resource Group and Alison Adam, who performed it.